My empire was built on semiconductors and smart investments, worth more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, but none of it could repair my shattered spine. I drove everyone away with my rage and self-pity until she arrived at my penthouse with her bucket of supplies and that impossibly warm smile. I did everything I could to crush her spirit. Instead, she dismantled every wall I'd built and reminded me what it meant to be alive. My name is Quayme Park, and 4 years ago, the person I used to be vanished. It happened on a foggy morning in Seoul when a delivery truck skidded through an intersection and slammed into my car, compressing 2 years of my father's Korean discipline and my mother's Ghanaian dreams into a single moment of twisted metal and shattered vertebrae. I woke up in a San medical center, unable to feel anything below my ribcage, staring at white ceiling tiles that stretched out like the vast emptiness of my future. I was 37 years old, the CEO of a tech company I'd built from nothing, a man who prided himself on control, on strength, on never needing anyone. The doctors spoke about rehabilitation and adaptive technologies and maintaining a positive outlook. My girlfriend Sujin stayed by my side for exactly 19 days before her family convinced her to leave. She cried when she told me, said her parents couldn't accept her marrying a man who couldn't walk, couldn't give them grandchildren the traditional way, couldn't be the strong husband they'd envisioned. She placed the promise ring I'd given her on the bedside table and left. I didn't fight it. I didn't plead. I simply turned my face to the wall and felt whatever humanity remained inside me calcify into something hard and cold. In the months that followed, I transformed into a monster. I moved into my penthouse in Gangnam, a sleek fortress of glass and steel high above the city, and began systematically destroying any connection to the outside world. I had more than enough wealth to sustain myself indefinitely, enough isolation to avoid pitying stares, and enough bitterness to corrode anyone who dared come close. My staff became disposable. I fired nurses for greeting me too cheerfully in Korean when I wanted to hear Twi, the language my mother had spoken. I dismissed physical therapists for pushing me toward goals I had no interest in achieving. I let go of housekeepers for the smallest infractions, moving a photograph half an inch, brewing tea that was too hot or too cold, existing too loudly in my presence. Within 18 months, I'd cycled through 62 employees. The only person who remained was Mr. Cho, an older man who'd worked as my father's driver before my father passed away. He seemed impervious to my cruelty, accepting my verbal attacks with the same steady calm he'd shown when navigating Seoul traffic for 3 decades. Perhaps he'd made a promise to my father. Perhaps he simply pitied me. I didn't care enough to ask. I spent my days in my study, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a city I no longer belonged to, reading philosophy and business journals and anything that let me escape into someone else's reality. I refused rehabilitation. I refused surgeries that might improve my condition. I refused hope itself. What purpose did hope serve? My body had betrayed me. My future had been stolen. Better to sit in my custom wheelchair and let the world move on without me. Mr. Cho would bring meals that grew cold on my desk, assist me with tasks my pride could barely tolerate needing help with, and absorb my angry outbursts with patient silence that made me even angrier. Looking back now, I realize I was testing him, waiting for the day he'd finally abandon me like everyone else. He never did. Then on a Wednesday morning in March, during that strange week when winter and spring battle for dominance in Seoul, everything shifted. I was rereading Marcus Aurelius for the 8th time when I heard singing. Actual singing. Someone was humming a melody I didn't recognize, something that sounded both Korean and not, moving through my penthouse like they belonged there. I rolled my wheelchair toward the sound, fury already tightening my chest. Mr. Cho knew better than to hire anyone without explicit permission. Whoever this person was, they'd be gone within the hour. That's when I saw her. A young woman, perhaps in her late 20s, with rich dark skin that caught the morning light and hair braided in intricate patterns that fell past her shoulders. She wore simple black pants and a white shirt, pushing a cleaning cart down my hallway, completely absorbed in whatever song she was humming. She hadn't noticed me yet. When she turned toward my study, my sanctuary, my private universe, I moved to block the entrance. "Who are you and what are you doing in my home?" I spoke in Korean, making no effort to soften the edge in my voice. She looked up startled but not frightened. Her eyes met mine, deep brown and impossibly clear. "Oh, good morning, I'm Naomi. Mr. Cho hired me to help maintain the apartment. You must be Mr. Park." She responded in Korean, but there was something else in her accent, something that suggested other languages lived on her tongue. "Mr. Cho had no authority to hire anyone. You're dismissed. Leave now." Most people would have apologized profusely, bowed repeatedly, and rushed out. She did none of those things. She simply studied me for a moment, her expression thoughtful. With respect, Mr. Park, Mr. Cho does have that authority. Your father's estate documents give him full discretion over household staff, and I can't leave, I need this position. I was so stunned by her directness that words failed me for several seconds. She interpreted my silence as permission to continue. I understand you're upset. Mr. Cho warned me you might be resistant, but this apartment needs proper care, including this study, so if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. She actually started to move past me. I rolled my wheelchair to block her path again, my hands gripping the wheels so tightly my knuckles went pale. You understand nothing. This is my private space. No one enters here except me. Mr. Park, when was the last time these windows were properly cleaned? She gestured toward the glass walls. The dust is diffusing the natural light. And these books, she nodded toward my shelves, they need care. Books are living things in their own way. They need respect. Her voice softened slightly. I promise I'll treat your possessions with care. I know how to honor what matters to people. Something in her tone, in the way she spoke about books as living things, made me hesitate. Not surrender, but pause. You have 1 hour. If you break anything, disturb anything, or move anything from its place, you're finished here. That's fair, she said, and offered a small smile that I absolutely did not return. That first day established the pattern for the next 3 months. I made her existence as difficult as possible. I left papers scattered deliberately across surfaces she'd just cleaned. I changed my requirements constantly, demanding things in Korean one day and English the next, criticizing her when she switched between languages. I found fault with everything. The way she arranged my desk. The temperature of the tea she brought without being asked. The fact that she hummed while working, filling my silent fortress with sound I claimed to find irritating. I mocked her accent when she spoke Korean, questioned her education, her competence, her right to occupy space in my home. Through all of it, she remained unshakable. She cleaned without complaint. She continued humming those melodies that seemed to blend different musical traditions. She treated me with a courtesy I absolutely didn't deserve and certainly hadn't earned. One morning about a month in, I confronted her directly. She was dusting my bookshelves with meticulous care, following the system I'd established. Why don't you quit? I demanded. Everyone else does. Why do you keep returning when I've made it abundantly clear you're unwanted here? She didn't pause in her work, didn't turn to face me when she answered. My mother taught me to finish what I begin. She taught me that when someone lashes out, it's rarely about you. It's about their own pain, their own fear. She carefully returned a book to its exact position. And besides, I need this position. My mother is ill. She needs medication, needs treatment. I work 4 jobs to cover her expenses. This one pays more than the other 3 combined. So you can insult me, test me, try to break me down, but I'm staying. I've survived much worse than an angry rich man. Her words struck somewhere I thought I'd made unreachable. That night I lay awake thinking about what she'd said, about her mother, about pain and survival. For the first time in 4 years I considered someone's suffering besides my own. The next morning when she arrived, I didn't insult her. I simply nodded in acknowledgement. She smiled like I'd offered her something precious. Gradually, imperceptibly, things began shifting. I stopped resisting her presence and started observing. The way she sang songs that mixed Korean lyrics with what I eventually learned was Yoruba, her father's language. The way she spoke softly to my books when she cleaned them, apologizing if she had to move them. The way she always prepared extra food and left portions for Mr. Cho, who she discovered lived on convenient store meals. The way she'd pause mid-task if she encountered an interesting passage, reading it with complete absorption, her lips moving silently. One afternoon I was attempting to retrieve a volume from an upper shelf and my wheelchair couldn't position close enough. I'd been struggling for 15 minutes, too stubborn to call for help when Naomi appeared in the doorway. She didn't make it dramatic, just walked over calmly, asked which book I needed and handed it to me. She didn't linger, didn't ask if I required additional assistance, didn't treat me as helpless, just helped and continued with her tasks. Thank you, I said quietly. They were the first words of gratitude I'd spoken in years. She turned back and the smile she gave me contained more warmth than I'd felt since before the accident. See, that wasn't so difficult. After that I began talking to her while she worked. Small observations at first. Comments about the weather, questions about whatever book had captured her attention. Then deeper conversations emerged. She told me about growing up between 2 worlds, her Korean mother and Nigerian father creating a home where kimchi and jollof rice shared the table, where she learned to navigate being seen as foreign in both cultures that made her who she was. She spoke about her mother, who'd worked as a nurse in Lagos before moving to Seoul, who'd faced discrimination but persevered, who'd raised Naomi and her 2 younger brothers alone after her father died. About how she dreamed of becoming a doctor but couldn't afford medical school. About how she was the person her entire neighborhood, a small community of African immigrants in Itaewon, called when they needed help. She'd translate documents for families struggling with bureaucracy, sit with sick children while their parents worked, organize fundraisers for medical emergencies. I told her things I'd never articulated to anyone, about my accident and the way it severed not just my spine but my sense of self, about Sujin leaving and how it confirmed every fear I had about being unlovable in this condition, about the crushing weight of knowing I'd never walk again, never be the man I'd built myself into, never live the future I'd meticulously planned, about the rage that consumed me, the bitterness that poisoned everything it touched. She listened without judgment, without offering empty platitudes. One day she said something that fractured something inside me. You think you lost yourself when you lost your legs, but perhaps you just lost your way. The man you were is still present, Mr. Park. He's just frightened and hurting, but he hasn't disappeared. I wanted to argue, to explain why she was wrong. Instead, I found myself crying for the first time since waking up in that hospital. She didn't try to comfort me with touch or words. She just remained nearby, giving me space to feel without shame. When I finally stopped, she simply said, "It's healthy to mourn what you've lost. Just remember to recognize what remains." Weeks became months. Our conversations expanded and deepened. I found myself anticipating her arrival each morning, my entire mood lifting when I heard her humming in the entrance. She made me laugh with stories from her other jobs, from the elderly Korean woman who kept trying to set her up with her grandson, from the restaurant where she washed dishes, and the cook insisted on teaching her family recipes. I began secretly arranging payments for her mother's medical treatment through Mr. Cho, covering specialist appointments and medications. When she discovered what I'd done, she cried and tried to refuse the help. I wouldn't allow it. "Naomi, you've given me something I believed was gone forever. You've made me want to see tomorrow. Let me do this, please." She embraced me then. It was the first time anyone had touched me with genuine affection, without pity or obligation, since before everything changed. I felt something crack open in my chest, something I'd thought was permanently sealed. I started transforming, actually transforming. I began showering and dressing properly again instead of staying in sweatpants. I contacted physical therapists I'd dismissed, started working harder than I ever had, not because I believed I'd walk again, but because I wanted to be better. For her, for myself. For the possibility of a future I'd stopped imagining existed. Mr. Cho noticed. He'd find me smiling at something Naomi had said hours earlier, and he'd smile too, saying nothing but understanding everything. One evening a typhoon hit Seoul. Rain hammered the windows. Thunder rattled the building and the subway stopped running. Naomi couldn't get home to Itaewon. I insisted she stay. Mr. Cho prepared the guest room, but we ended up in my study talking until sunrise. We shared dreams, fears, stories we'd never told anyone. She fell asleep on the sofa near my wheelchair around 5 in the morning, her hand resting close to mine. I stayed awake watching her peaceful face, her braids spread across the cushion, and realized with absolute certainty that I loved her. The next morning, I found her in the kitchen preparing breakfast, mixing Korean banchan with something that smelled like her father's cooking. My heart was pounding so violently I thought my chest might split open. "Naomi, I need to say something." She turned, concern crossing her features. "Is something wrong?" "I need to tell you that I'm in love with you." The words rushed out. "I know I'm broken, I know I'm difficult, I know I'm not the man anyone would choose, but you've made me want to live again. You've shown me that life still holds meaning. I understand if you can't feel the same way, but I needed you to know." The silence that followed felt infinite. I prepared myself for rejection, for pity, for losing the one good thing that remained in my existence. Then she set down her spatula, walked over and knelt beside my wheelchair. Tears streamed down her face. "Kwame," she said, using my first name for the first time. "I've loved you for months. I was just afraid to say it, afraid you'd think I wanted your money, afraid it would destroy what we have, afraid of so many things, but I love you, not despite who you are now, but because of who you are, all of you." I pulled her close and kissed her, and for the first time in 4 years the world felt right again. Of course, the world beyond my penthouse didn't make anything easy. When news spread that I was involved with Naomi, the judgment came swift and merciless. Former business partners whispered in boardrooms. My mother's family in Korea, people who'd barely acknowledged my existence after my father died, suddenly had opinions about appropriate relationships. Online forums exploded with commentary about the tech CEO and his African housekeeper, each word dripping with racism and classism. Naomi faced it worst of all. Strangers on the street stared. Shop owners in certain neighborhoods treated her with open hostility. She received messages calling her a gold digger, saying she was taking advantage of a disabled man using slurs I won't repeat. My cousin Jae-hoon, who'd been positioning himself to inherit portions of my wealth, spread vicious rumors about her character. Entertainment blogs ran articles with our photos, dissecting every aspect of our relationship. Even Soo-jin reappeared, suddenly interested now that I was improving. She showed up at my building one afternoon, perfectly dressed, saying she'd made a mistake, that her family had been wrong, that she wanted another chance. I had Mr. Cho turn her away without even speaking to her. One night, after a particularly brutal day where someone had shouted slurs at Naomi on the subway, she came to me with tears in her eyes. Maybe we should end this. I don't want to be the reason people attack you. I don't want to damage your reputation, your business relationships. I took her hands in mine, holding them firmly. I've spent 4 years hiding from life, afraid of judgment, afraid of pain, afraid of being seen as less than I was. Not anymore. I love you. I don't care what anyone thinks. I've been a coward for too long. 3 weeks later, I took her to the finest restaurant in Seoul, a place known for turning away anyone they deemed unsuitable. I rolled in with my wheelchair, not attempting to hide it, not caring who stared. With Mr. Cho's help, I'd been secretly practicing something for months, working with physical therapists when Naomi wasn't around, pushing my body beyond what I thought possible. When we finished dinner, when the entire restaurant was pretending not to watch us, I used all my upper body strength to lower myself onto one knee, using the chair for balance. The room went completely silent. Naomi Osai, I said, using both her names, honoring both parts of her heritage. You entered my life when I was drowning in darkness. You showed me that love isn't about perfection or meeting someone's expectations. It's about seeing someone completely, with all their brokenness and beauty, and choosing them anyway. Will you marry me? She said yes before I could finish, laughing and crying simultaneously. The restaurant erupted in applause. Some people were crying. I didn't hear any of it. I only heard her saying yes, yes, yes. We married 8 weeks later in the garden of a hanok we rented in Bukchon, one of the old neighborhoods where traditional Korean houses still stand. Her mother was there, healthy and radiant, thanks to the treatments I'd insisted on funding, flying in from Lagos with Naomi's brothers. Mr. Cho stood as my best man, tears in his eyes. We didn't invite business associates or society people, just the individuals who actually loved us. The ceremony blended traditions. A Korean paebaek where we bowed to elders and caught dates in fabric. Nigerian wedding customs where her brothers performed traditional dances, and we jumped the broom her grandfather had carved. We wore clothes that honored both cultures. Her dress incorporated Korean hanbok elements with Nigerian Ankara fabric. My suit had subtle patterns from both traditions woven into the design. When it came time for vows, I did something Naomi didn't know I'd been preparing for months. Using specially designed canes and every ounce of strength I'd built through countless hours of therapy, I stood up. I wasn't graceful. My legs shook with effort. My therapist stood nearby in case I fell. But I stood, and I spoke my vows standing, looking into her eyes. I stand before you today because you taught me that strength isn't measured by what your body can do. It's measured by what your heart can hold. You held my broken heart until it could beat properly again. Now let me spend my life holding yours. She sobbed through her entire vows, so did most of our guests. Mr. Cho wiped his eyes with a handkerchief. It was the most beautiful day of my life. That was 8 months ago. I walk with canes now, though I still use my wheelchair often. I don't care anymore. I'm happy, genuinely happy, in a way I never was before the accident. We've transformed part of my building into a community centre where Naomi runs free medical clinics for immigrant families who can't access proper healthcare. I teach business and technology skills to young people trying to build futures in a society that often works against them. The penthouse that was once silent and cold, a glass prison above the city, is now full of laughter, full of purpose, full of life. Naomi's brothers visit. Her mother stays with us for months at a time. Mr. Cho has become family. We host dinners where Korean, Nigerian and fusion dishes crowd the table, where multiple languages blend into one conversation, where people from different worlds find common ground. I thought my accident took everything from me. I thought that truck destroyed not just my body but any chance at happiness, at love, at a meaningful life. But it led me to her. Naomi didn't see a billionaire or a broken man. She saw a human being worth fighting for. She taught me that real strength isn't in your legs or your bank account or your ability to control everything around you. It's in your capacity to let someone love you, even when you're certain you don't deserve it. It's in your willingness to be vulnerable, to be seen completely, to let your walls come down. I smile now every single day. And every time I do, I thank God, thank fate, thank whatever force brought a woman with Nigerian fire and Korean grace into my library and refused to let me die inside my own bitterness. She didn't just become my wife. She became my salvation, my reminder that being broken doesn't mean being finished. Sometimes we have to fall apart completely before we can rebuild ourselves into something stronger, something more authentic, something capable of real love. The accident didn't end my life. It ended the life I thought I was supposed to live, and it gave me the chance to discover the life I was actually meant for, a life with Naomi, a life with meaning beyond wealth and status. A life where being vulnerable isn't weakness but the greatest strength of all. If someone had told me 5 years ago that I'd be grateful for that accident, I would have called them insane. But I am grateful. Not for the pain, not for the loss, but for where it led me, for who it brought into my world, for the man it forced me to become. You're just one person away from everything changing. One conversation, one chance encounter, one moment of letting your guard down. Don't give up on hope. Don't give up on the possibility that your life can be completely different than you imagine. Mine was transformed by a woman with a cleaning cart and a song in her heart. Yours might be transformed by someone you haven't even met yet. The man I was died in that accident. But the man I became, the man Naomi helped me discover, is someone I'm actually proud to be. And that's worth more than all the money in the world, worth more than the use of my legs, worth more than anything I thought defined me before. Remember this. You are not your circumstances, you are not your limitations, you are not your past, you are whoever you choose to become starting right now. And sometimes the greatest love stories begin in the darkest moments, when someone sees past everything you've become and recognizes who you still are underneath. Don't forget to subscribe K-MELANIN TV.